Hello and welcome to this quick start where we will see how to create our first test using Magic Inspector. We will also look at how to use the variable and secret system to reuse values in your tests. Additionally, we will explore how to make your tests reusable so they can be imported into other tests, which is particularly useful for authentication flows. Finally, we will see how to schedule your tests to run automatically and set up alerts so you can be informed when your tests fail. So, let's get started. We are going to create our first test. Let's imagine that for this first test, I want to test the authentication flow of Magic Inspector running on magicinspector.com. I will create a test that I will call I can authenticate. I usually write my tests in English, but you can write them in any language. Generally, it will work the same way. For the URL, I will add magicinspector.com and click on Create Test. From there, we are in our test editing interface. You can see in the left panel that you will be able to edit the instructions and steps for each of your tests. And in the right panel, you will see everything related to the visual aspects and general instructions about your tests and what is currently happening. So, we will start by choosing the type of our first instruction. You see that you have several types of instructions to choose from. Here, we will begin with a wait for delay, which will allow us to wait for a certain amount of time. So, we will start with a wait for delay of 1000 milliseconds or 1 second, and we will click on the Run Full Scenario button to launch our test. From there, you will see that the right panel will start to activate. You will notice at the bottom right, all the logs indicating what the AI and Magic Inspector are doing on your site, and on the top right, the screenshot showing the current state of your website. Here, we see that the test is successful, the page has opened, and we can continue our test. What we want to do is click the sign in button located here and then fill out the authentication form. So we will do that right away by adding a first instruction by clicking the plus button. In this step, we will use a click element instruction. All we need to do is describe the element we want to click in natural language. I will say sign in button. I usually describe my instructions in English, but you can do it in any language. Generally, complex instructions work a bit better in English, but feel free to test in your preferred language. For now, we won't focus on the features on the right that allow us to enable or disable the AI or change the type of AI we're using. We'll cover that in another video in the Magic Inspector documentation. Here, I'm satisfied with my instruction, so I can click the Resume button to continue the test from where it left off. We see that the AI is restarting and has correctly highlighted the button I want to click. It will click on it and my test will continue. I am now on the login page. On this page, I will be able to add 3 interesting instructions. The first will be a fill input that allows me to fill in the email field. The second will be a fill input that lets me fill in the password field. And the third will be a click element on the login button to log in. I will do that right away. First, I will add a fill input action. In the description, I will need to add a natural language description that helps me identify the email field. So, I will add an email. Input. When assigning the time, I might want to pass an email like this. But what would be even more interesting is to pass a variable. This will be even more interesting because I could reuse this value across all my tests, and it will also be interesting especially for passwords or any secured variables since I can store them as secrets. I will click on this button, the variables button. As you can see, I currently have no variables, but I can click on create a new variable to make one. I'll name it user email and give it a description and set a value. I save my variable. After saving it, I can use it in my field. I'll create a variable for my password that will be a secret type. I do the same operation, create a new variable. This time, I'll choose secret. The key difference between variables and secrets is that secrets are encrypted in the database, never sent to a third-party API, and not shown in the logs. I won't use my secret right away since I will first add a fill input instruction to fill in my password. I will proceed in the same way for the password by describing my password field naturally. This time, I will use my secret. All I have to do is click the login button, and I'll add a click element operation stating the login button. I will restart my scenario from the beginning. We can see that our scenario is running, that it has filled in all the fields correctly, and that it is clicking the login button. And there we go, I am finally authenticated, and we can see that I have arrived at the dashboard. To finish, I can create a visual assertion to validate that I have indeed reached my dashboard. I will switch back to editor mode, add an instruction that will be of type AI visual assertion. This will allow me to ask the AI in natural language if something is present on the page. So for example, I will tell it, I am on my dashboard, and I can see a list of tests. I will be able to click on Resume to continue my test. You see that the visual assertion has passed and that the AI also gives me the reason why the visual assertion is validated. This helps ensure there are no false positives. Now that I am satisfied with my authentication flow test, I would like to make it reusable so that I can import it at the beginning of my other tests and thus test the application from a certain state. What I can do is click the Make It Reusable button. This button will allow me to make this test reusable and import it into other tests. And you can see that from this moment on, the starting test URL is no longer changeable since it will be inherited from where the test is located in the test it imports. We will verify that right now. I will go to the list of tests and create a new test. Therefore, I will create an action that will be of the type import reusable test. This action will enable me to reuse my reusable test. I will be able to run my scenario from there, and you can see that my test has been imported into my new test. Here, my flow executes correctly, and I will be able to add instructions following my test by switching back to edit mode. You may have already noticed that there is sometimes a resume button and a run full scenario button. But the difference between the two buttons is that the resume button will continue the test from the last instruction where it stopped, either at the last failed instruction or at the instruction after the last success. This resume button is available for 2 minutes after the last execution of your test in the editor. It allows you not to have to restart your scenario from the beginning to easily add instructions. Thus, it enables you to iterate on your tests very easily and efficiently. Let's imagine I want to delete this instruction. I can simply click on the menu and remove the instruction. Once I'm satisfied with my test and want to schedule it to run automatically, I can set it up in suites. So I'll click on the Schedule in a Suite button, and from there I can create my suite. For example, my first suite. I can choose between two behaviors, manual or scheduled. In manual mode, you'll need to run your suite manually. In scheduled mode, you can set the interval at which the suite will run, as well as the hours or days it will launch. Let's say I want to run my test from Monday to Saturday, but not on Tuesday, from 8 to 5 every 2 hours. I'll click on Create. Congratulations, we've created our first suite, and we can add this test to it. Starting from there, you can see that I already have 2 suites in my account. I can disable this suite since it's not being used anymore, and I can see that this suite contains a test. I can edit it to add more tests or change its behavior whenever I want. When this suite runs, whether manually or automatically, it will trigger all the tests within that suite. You can add as many tests to a suite as you like. Now that my suite is scheduled, the next step is to configure an alert to notify me when my tests fail. So go to Alert Settings and configure an integration of your choice. The easiest way to start is to set up an email integration. I will click on Add, and from there I can create an email profile. The reason you can create multiple profiles is that later you can choose to assign a profile to one or more specific suites. As long as you don't configure this, your profile will be assigned by default to all the suites you create. Here I will describe my profile and add as many email addresses as I want. When I am satisfied, I check that my profile is activated and I will save it. And that's it. This is already the end of this tutorial. We were able to create a test that we made reusable within another test, add variables and secrets, program our test, and finally configure an alert profile. In the following sections of the documentation, you will see how to enable or disable AI, how to choose which model to use based on the use case, and even how to select which non-AI function to use according to your use cases, and many other things. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us directly via the chat at the bottom right of the application or by email at kevin@magicinspector.com. I'll see you soon at magicinspector.com, and I wish you a very good day. Goodbye.